I, 27 male, found out that my high school sweetheart, wife, 26 female, slept with multiple men during our short non-divorce separation. My wife, Delilah, and I have been having issues for the past year, mostly our personal issues, declining mental health, causing marital issues. We've been together for almost 10 years, married for 3, and things were amazing for the first 9. In April, we decided to separate for a few months so that we can work on our issues and to give her space to study for a big exam. Although we knew it was a possibility, we had no intentions of divorcing. We had just started marriage counseling. In mid-June, Delilah asked to cut off all contact with me, including counseling, while she studied for her big exam. I pushed back at first, desperately warning her that the distance would cause more issues, but finally agreed in support of her studying. We went almost 2 months without hardly any contact. She gave a cold reply to my short, but sweet, happy 3rd anniversary. I love you message. A week after her exam, Delilah apologized for being so cold to me and explains that she has had a change of heart and wants to make things work with me. She comes up to where I was staying, different state near all of her family, and we spend a lot of great time together. A little over a week later, one of her friends tells me that Delilah was on Tinder and has been actively trying to date and sleep with other men. She had a consistent F-buddy starting in June. Slept around with a bunch of randos on Tinder and then started an actual romantic relationship with one of her former classmates. On Monday, as we talked about our plans moving forward with the marriage, I asked Delilah repeatedly if there was anything I should know or anything she wanted to get off her chest. She looked me square in the eyes and said, no. Each time I confronted her, told her that I knew, and we had long discussions about everything she did. She explained that her mental health is awful, and it was a coping mechanism, and that she was going to tell me when we started counseling again. I explained that above all else, the blatant lying and deceit is a deal breaker for me. She's trying so hard to get me to do counseling and work through this. I'm absolutely heartbroken at the idea of this beautiful 10-year relationship ending, but I struggle to see a future where I can trust her again. How do you guys rebuild that trust? Is it fair to blame these actions and the blatant lying on mental health issues? Edit. Wow. Thanks, everyone, for the support. I was fully planning to divorce when I first learned of this, but since then, Delilah has been doing a great job at manipulating me and making me feel pity for her mental health. Thank you all for the validation of my decision to divorce. If you were in my shoes, would you tell your significant other's family or siblings about this? I'm extremely close to them, and they are dying for us to stay together. I fear that they'll hate me for divorcing Delilah without knowing the truth, but I also know it'll cause serious damage to her relationships with them. Let's get some comments. Bored and Depressed says trust is already broken when she lies to you straight up. Leave her for your own sake and mental health. Next comment comes from Temporary Alpha. I strongly agree with you. Trust is so much more important than love. I don't think love can exist without it. Whatever we call it, it isn't love. Trust can be rebuilt, but it is extremely difficult, and I don't see anything in OP's post suggesting that his wife is prepared to do the work. She's using the offer of counseling as a smokescreen to hide from what she did. The thing is, anything that makes us treat another person dishonestly demonstrates that we're responding to the image of the person in our heads, not the actual person. OP's wife was viewing OP as an object to navigate around while she saw to her own interests, not as a living, breathing person who actually loved her. I think many relationships are like this. We fall in love with the images in our head, not the people. It's way easier to betray an image than an actual person. There's nothing OP can do to fix this. He can't love harder or be more honest because he's not the one who caused the rift. His wife is responding to being caught out in her lie, not to what she did. She needs therapy. OP needs time to deal with his anger. He's still in shock and sorrow. One more comment before we move on to the next story. It comes from El Wapo 2011. Trust is like a shattered base. You can glue and patch it back together, but it will never be the same and will break easier. I could never be with someone that could lie to me with such ease. At your young age, I wouldn't spend the rest of my life dealing with this. She's simply not worth it. Alright. Next story. My girlfriend of 4 years met someone on vacation, and 1 to 2 weeks later had an affair with him in another country. About a month and a half ago, we each went on different vacations. I had a vacation at a beach with the boys, while she went to Costa Rica to do volunteer work and travel for a week. I was originally going to accompany her on the volunteer trip, but I have very strict parents who didn't let me. We weren't going to see each other for a month. And when we texted, like we usually do, we had a 1.5 year long-distance relationship. So it wasn't a big deal. We gave each other our space while on vacation so we could enjoy it. I left in days earlier and for a shorter time. So when I came back home, I got COVID and had to quarantine for 2 weeks. While she was in Costa Rica, everything went smoothly, but we had a fight on our only FaceTime call. We usually just texted. It was my fault, so I apologize for my behavior. And we still texted like we usually do. She also has made a lot of friends in her time there, which doesn't bother me as long as she doesn't keep them a secret or something. When her 2 weeks in paradise were up, I felt that she was a bit distant. She rarely communicated her feelings at the right time and would just explode when she couldn't take it anymore. So I knew what was coming. I still pushed Russ to hang out, even though she barely kept up a conversation. We had sex one time, but she barely kissed me during. Also, during a random conversation, I mentioned I got a bit jealous seeing her having such a good time over there without me and how I can't wait for our next trip together. She went full defensive mode, saying her best guy friend was gay. Something was off. She then surprised me with another trip. Her sister had already planned a trip to Europe, and she invited her along. She bought her plane ticket and would leave a week after her return from Costa Rica. Now I had a problem in my hands since I wanted to fix whatever issue she was having before she left. We had her 4 years 4 months anniversary coming up, so I decided to make her a nice dinner. While we're having dinner and sharing stories of our past, she suddenly exploded on me. She started saying I was too focused on the future and not living in the present, but I was too clingy sometimes. I wouldn't think about her wants and the relationship as well. I went into shock and didn't even know what to say. I don't remember what words I achieved to utter, but it just made everything worse. But the thing is, she was kind of right. I just never noticed. She used to do the same thing, but stopped some time ago and left me saying those types of romantic clingy things. I didn't want her to leave like this, so I went the next day to her house. I think I just made it worse since she obviously did not want to even touch me and spent a lot of time on her phone. For that reason, I got a bit irritated. I told her I want to talk about the relationship and what we can do to make it better from both sides when she got back. She agreed, she hugged, and said her last love. We kept a rather one-sided conversation over text. It was so obvious she was talking with someone else, but it didn't let that bother me. I was sure it was just a friend. 4 days into her vacation, her sister left to visit a friend for about 5 days, leaving my girlfriend alone. We texted when we could until after I asked if she took some pictures of her day. She ghosted me. I didn't see any more stories about her close friends or received an update or anything. I didn't take it personally. I thought she just needed some space and didn't have the guts to tell me that. When we were long distance, I loved exploring a new city alone. So I thought she was doing just that. How naive of me. During this time, I reflected on a relationship and my issues that I constantly drown out with weed. I also stopped smoking during her time away. I started journaling, which I never did, and started focusing on me. Not only that, but I also reconnected with some old friends. I wanted this to work. I was in love with this girl. I would do anything for this to work, so I rehearsed what I was going to say when I saw her again. After a couple of days, she started posting on her Instagram again. I noticed a guy the first didn't know leaving some heart-shaped emojis, which kicked me off that something was wrong. I also noticed while looking for a playlist on her profile on Spotify, that she followed this dude. 2 days later, she posted another photo and this guy was in the comments yet again. I got so paranoid. I talked with friends about it, and they told me not to worry. And I did just that. The only text we exchanged before her flight home was just me asking when she was coming back, and I received a cold response. The day she flew back home, I was at the gym and got this sick pain in my stomach. My gut telling me that she's been cheating on me. I tend to overthink, so I wrote the reasons why I thought she was being unfaithful. The reason seemed very reasonable to me. I'm kind of embarrassed about this part, but who cares? I remembered I had her school login info and I thought about looking in there and see if I could find any evidence, which I did. She connected her school Google Photos with her normal Google Photos account. So I basically had access to her camera roll, and boy, do I wish I could erase what I saw. This guy in her comments was all over it. It looked as if they were a couple. They were kissing, smiling, a few pictures without shirts, touristing on the bed, him making her dinner, a hickey she left him. Pictures that she had sent me before I was ghosted were apparently cropped, him being in the corner. Romantic pictures at the same museum where she shared some art. They apparently met in Costa Rica, and it looked like they hit it off. No evidence of physical cheating in Costa Rica, only in Europe. I noticed she took some explicit pictures that she did not send to me during her week back home, that she obviously sent to him. There were also screenshots of a snap map showing how he was in the same city before she got there. This destroyed me. I screamed for what seemed hours. I called my brother up and he helped me calm down. His ex-girlfriend also cheated on him, so he could relate. After talking about it with my brother and friends, I felt a lot better. This speaks more about herself than me. I burned her pictures and other memorabilia I had on me. I confronted her the next day. I started by asking who this guy was, and she lied about it. She said he was just a friend from Costa Rica. I told her straight up that I knew he was more than just a friend, and basically he told her my thought process on finding the evidence. Even though it's not the best strategy, I wanted to be upfront about it. She then changed the subject by saying how dare I look into her photos. I repeated that she cheated. We then spend the next 50 minutes talking about our relationship where I went wrong. Apparently, she wanted to break out before she left, but couldn't do it. She didn't want to feel guilty for making me sad, which I find to be such BS excuse. She mentioned she had strong feelings for him since the moment they met at a bar in Costa Rica, that she hadn't felt for me in a long time. Felt a bit gaslighted afterwards and didn't get the chance to really rub it in that she cheated on me. I decided to take the higher road and just added the fact that she cheated in some sentences. Let her mind do the guilt tripping. So it's done. I'm happy that I know for sure that she was not the one, and someone else is out there waiting for me. I still feel empty sometimes. She returned home for 1 week and something was up. One day before I left for another vacation to Europe, she exploded on me, basically expressing her doubts in our relationship. I said I wanted to talk about it with our minds clear when she came back, and she agreed. She then left for Europe with her sister. And met up with the same guy by coincidence and had a week-long affair with him. A chapter Google Photos account where he found evidence. Confronted her yesterday. She admitted then she developed feelings for him and lost interest in our relationship after meeting him for the first time. All this well, I still have my health, my friends, and my family. And a will to improve myself. Time to check into the community for some comments. Royalkin0716 says, go no contact and live your best life. Improve yourself and guarantee she will be reaching out to you. This always happens, especially since the guy is another country and relationships to start out with cheating almost never worked out. So sorry. Next comment coming from Pereira. 1955. Hi, OP, I'm sorry for you, but it looks like you're doing the right things. Just forget her, go to her, and be sure don't ever take her back if she comes crawling to you in a few months. Next comment comes from Sashwing. When you're young, there is a thing called summer love. The romantic notion is somewhat magical, but reality is that the relationship can never go beyond that period. It usually involves people going on vacation or spending time with a relative or friend's family in a different location. Everything is new and exciting. And in that small window of time, this is something that creates the emotions for romance. That being said, if I were you, I would realize the reality of the situation. The problem is not the lack of respect for your relationship, rather it's for herself. A woman that will be a casual hookup either has emotional trauma or no self-respect. On to the next comment from Tertiary. That says a ton about her character that she'd rather cheat than be honest with you and end the relationship to pursue someone else. That relationship was built on a lie and was struggled to last. Wonder if the O.M. knew about you. Depending on how vindictive you want to be, you could shoot him a note and then wash your hands of it and focus on healing. Next comment come from Leading to Best. Jesus Christ, dude. That sure sounds frustrating and painful. I'm glad you got your health, friends, and family. And also that your brother calms you down. Props to him. He did it with a good person and a friend brother. Final comment from Belv17. You are incredibly lucky to have the support around you. I wish you the best and to find someone who really loves and respects you.